Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to your daily critique. I wanted to start off by, well, first off, we have a handful of videos to go through. We have some still images to go through, and there were a couple questions from Adrian, and I wanted to start with the questions, videos, and then photos. But I wanted to start somewhere else before we get started on any of that, and that's basically a conversation that I just had with some colleagues that I wanted to just express to you guys as well. So we were talking about how unproductive we felt in the last 48 hours or so, and how difficult it is to, it's getting better, but like 2 days ago, how difficult it was to kind of focus on anything with kind of the events going on, especially if you live here in the United States. So it felt really good to talk and say that out loud. So I wanted to rest assured to any of you that may have been plugged in on the news the last 48 hours. If you are affected by these global issues, if you're finding it difficult to focus, if you're finding it difficult to keep your attention on things, it's totally normal. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's a hard thing to process at the moment, so allow yourself to process it and know that you're not the only one who feels that way. So I did just want to say that. Okay, so before we hop into images, let's take a look at, we've got a new video down here from Holly as well. Okay. Adrian asks, is it normal for someone starting out to get stuck, not know what else to do on a piece quite easily? Yes. There's a little bit of, well, yes, there is, because the problem is that you have an infinite number of possibilities out of the gate. You can do, and your brain's probably working 100 miles an hour, and you're probably thinking, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this. And lots of times, from my standpoint, I see that manifest itself in the image, right? I often encourage people to simplify out of the gate. And so yeah, no, that's totally normal. You'll get better at it the more you do it. Your vision will come in more clearly, which can hurt sometimes because you want that experimentation, but don't feel like you're struggling in any way because you're stuck coming out of the gate. It's a difficult process. Now, your second question, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you to clarify because I noticed sometimes the animation is animated towards the camera, so the lighting may not affect those particular geometry in the same way as others. How would you tackle this issue? I think it's like, I'm not certain. I'm not sure what you mean by that, because if it's animating towards the camera, it would still move through the lighting in the scene the same as everything else. So and I know you said you didn't have any examples, but if you could just clarify that a little more, I'll be happy to give you a written answer or talk about it on Monday. Okay, let's go into some videos. Oh, actually, let's take a look at Holly's here real quick. So you were close, so I'm just gonna pop it open here. Yeah, this looks great. My one. Let's watch it 3 times. My one final bit that I would say is I would just encourage you to take one final pass. Again, don't worry about re-rendering if you're already at full resolution. Just take one final pass at adding variation to the window values. All the windows in each building are kind of the same. Like, I'm pointing at my screen like you can see it. There's just one slightly on the screen left side. Like the car in the middle, it's just directly to the left of that car, where every light in that building's blue-ish. It's cooler. And then the lights closer to that car, everything is kind of a neutral white. I look around, walking around my neighborhood at night, looking at the color of windows and stuff, and there really is variation from room to room, even in offices like this. So I would encourage you, because the movement is pretty minimal in this. You can even do it in Nuke or After Effects or whatever you're using to composite. Just draw some rotos around things and change and push the hues a little bit, so that there's a little bit more color variation in the window light. But I love the detail. I love the fact that there's a breakup of the shadows that's really strong. Makes the city feel so much more alive. So really great job there. All right. Okay. Video time. Let's start with Aaron and Ashley. You all are working on the animated scene. So the biggest thing about this, Aaron, when I saw it was that I wanted there to be just more a bigger difference of the light as she enters the room, because like he's in a dark, dank, whatever stank room, and she's letting in sunlight, and that usually explodes into a room. So I just want to feel the presence of this light a little bit more as she enters. A few other things to watch out for, like there's a hard shadow casting here on him, where I'm guessing it's from the window, and where he's sitting now, he actually wouldn't be hit by that. So just watch out for that. And even if it was from that window, you would want that shadow to be a touch softer, like especially when he's sitting down. It's very, very sharp. And then the last two things are, well, the last one is, well, two things. Okay. So I would soften these rays on this window coming in a little bit. They're a little bit sharp. I would just soften, blur them a little bit. And for now, the other one is the animation on the TV. Like, do you see how it kind of fades down here? It's an interesting thing. So when you look at reference for TV light, it pops from shot to shot. So it's not quite a blend of frames. It's faster than that. It's more like it's more of a hard change. So if you can tighten that animation so it changes between light and dark more quickly, I think that would be. I think that might look a little bit better and feel more television-y. All right, Ashley. So we got your two shots here. All right. So look, I'm just like generally looking at how they play together. I think they actually cut together pretty well. The one thing about her and the color that we've chosen for her is that tonality wise, value wise, she's pretty similar from top to bottom. Like if you kind of squint at her, it's all kind of the same. It's almost like I want to darken her boots to kind of ground her closer to the ground. And I'm sorry if you already did some work with Jasmine in the shader side, but it was just a thought that I had. And you feel, of course, like all these notes, feel free to ignore me if you ever want. But I thought that would kind of ground her down a little bit. Let's see what else. And then just looking at this outside shot. The depth of field on the background here is a little bit strong. I would take this down just because in a large environment space, for this to be in focus this far away from camera and then that to be out of focus is fine, but you just want to reduce that amount because otherwise it feels very, very small. Looking inside here. I'm not quite sure where this light is coming from. It feels like, because like if this light's coming in here, it feels like the shadow would, I'm sorry, that's not a bad arrow. It would come across this way, and it feels like it's kicking back that way, almost like the window is like wrapping around back over here. So I'm not quite sure what's causing that. So be on the lookout for that. And then same deal here with you. Maybe like scale up the door so we're not quite seeing these edges, and then make this a little bit darker so we can focus in on him until she opens the door, and then poof, and then there's more light that pops in. And it kind of like, there's more bounce light that comes in. There's just more like ambient light back there. But yeah, I think that's a good way to go. Right. Next up, Jordan, we have your demo reel. So let's take a look at this real quick. So strong opening shot. Because you did this. That's right. You did this in Arnold. I was like, oh, because I've always thought of this as a Redshift project. But yeah, you're right. But this is great. That's a nice simple setup. This one, the fog looks great. Reference. It's funny. I want to take out that middle section, and I thought about this a lot, just because like I like the way that the red looks better, and then once we kind of cut to this, it's odd to me that like it's like, oh wait, why are we all of a sudden looking at it in a totally different color scheme? I almost just want to keep it on here. Don't worry about the reference on this one, and then just do the build up and move on. Again, feel free to disagree with me there, but just a thought. I really like the moving fog in that. This one looks good. Yeah, push it back. Man, does that match well. Okay, take out these lights. I don't know what it is about them. I don't like them. I think that they distract because you're kind of trying to communicate this 3D space with this 2D image. And like something like this or like that or like that. Maybe it's different in Unreal, but I don't really. I don't understand. It just looks like you made a bunch of point lights, which wouldn't be right. Yeah, I think because basically your image is so strong and your breakdown is strong that just kind of gets in the way. That's all I'll say about that. But yeah, I think that looks great. And then I think that you were talking about putting in your animated shot. I think that could go right in the middle. I wouldn't take anything else out. I would add to what you already have. And then a little breakdown in the middle of that won't mess up your flow because you've got a good flow. It'll move along well. Speaking of that animation, so the biggest thing that I was thinking of when I was looking at this, was I think the lighting on the foreground looks good. I like the light popping on. I think the character lighting looks really good. The only thing I would do to the character lighting is grab his eyes and just bring up the gamma on his eyes a little bit to get the dark side a little bit whiter. Just because his main eye is falling, his screen left eye is falling into the shadow a little bit, and we just want to boost that just a touch. But the bigger thing I would do is on the background. The background feels pretty flat to me. And it's because everything's kind of matte lit. I would try and get specular highlights on the grass and on this tree over here. And those would be the two biggest, because you want it to feel like there's like maybe a little moisture in the air. And that would pick up the bike a little bit more and pick up this chicken back here a little bit more. And I think that'll help out the scene quite a bit. Julio. So it's a funny reference. This was a sequence that I worked on in Epic. I didn't work on this particular shot, but the ones I think before and after it I did. So the biggest thing about this reference in this sequence was what we called the dapple, the way that the light came through the trees and hit the foliage around. So you can see like little bits here, 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 like all over the place. So that's kind of dapple in the surroundings with a patch in the middle where we want the attention to go, right? Like an opening in the tree line that points to that. Now, if you're thinking about that in terms of your shot, there are three main action points that happen. There's here, there's here. Well, actually, there's four. Here, and I guess in here where this is taking place, and where that final scene is at. So your quest out of the gate when you're blocking this is how do you want to handle those 4 points? So I think this one is definitely in sunlight. I think if there's the dapple around here, you can have shadow around here, shadow in here. This spot is in sunlight. I think that the end, so we can keep the focus on the butterfly back there, that should also be in sunlight. The question comes in is what you want to do in this area and what you want to do in the beginning. And this all plays together. So I think in the beginning you're going to want some sunlight coming in from his screen right side. Actually, whichever way you decide to have the sunlight come in. A little bit hitting him there, and then he goes into a little shadow here throughout this. Watch out for this tail whip. This might actually, do you see how it goes down and then pops up? And then disappears out of frame. You may want to just later on when you're comping it, if you have the character separate, you may just want to clip this tail off and then just pretend like it drops out of frame there. That might end up looking better. Okay, so in shadow, he's in light here. Then up here he goes into shadow because he's being creepy, and this will allow this light patch to stand out, and then light as we go back there. So that would be my advice for this and how I would block this out for you going forward. So really good job there. All right, let's go backwards. So we'll start with Kat. So for Cat, you've got some more, and again, similar to that dapple look that we had. Again, just that's kind of what I was referencing when I was talking about getting like little bits of light sprinkling back here. The color on her is better, but I do think I think we can go one more step. And I was looking at, and I pulled in some reference from a couple of the versions of this character where I think her skin tone was working really well. Both with Aaron and this one as well. And I think, and I actually brought them into the scene here in little bits just so we can kind of see. So if you look at the render here in the middle, you can see there's a lot more like kind of bluish green, a lot more yellow in the skin than what we're seeing here and here. And so I think, and this might be doing it to the whole image. Actually, let's go ahead and adjust the whole image, just so the skin tones start to match up. And I wonder if other things will start to kind of fall into alignment too. So if I pull some of the yellow out and infuse some of the blue in there, now you start to see her skin kind of fall in line with some of these others. It's pretty good right there. And now when we do that, let's see. I'm just going to turn this off. Oh. Okay, so you can see that now adding this little bit of coolness pulls some of that warmth out of the scene overall, which actually isn't totally what we want. We do want to keep some of that warmth on the background, but for her, it's just too much yellow on her skin and making her almost look a little bit jaundicey. So I think you should hit her, like if you have a key light that's kind of in the center here, pull off some of the yellow and make it a little more blue to kind of get that to match up. Let's take a look at some other elements of this. So yeah, and I do think that the ground can go a little bit brighter here. In fact, like look at, and this, like look how bright we're getting on the rocks and in some of these grassy areas in here, and like especially the white birch bark. And you can push that sun value in some of these areas as well. Again, specifically on the ground, to really make that feel like a bright sunny day. So a little stronger on the sun, especially here in the center, and suck out a little bit more yellow, and I think you'll be in a good spot. Jeff and Captain Wasabi, very fun stuff. The water looks great. I don't know where you got the water from, but that looks good. If you're generating that, that's really nice. You just want to make sure it doesn't get too bright along this horizon line and it kind of blends in back there, because that'll be reflecting those clouds theoretically. And so you just want to match that up along that distant path there. The biggest thing I want you to work on is the large orbs. I want you to get some variation in them if you can, because right now they're a little bit overpowering. Some of the, like, because I see what you did here by like framing it up on the background and complementary colors, and I think that works out really well. But it's very big and very bright, and it kind of like, it almost like drowns him out a little bit. So I wonder if there's a way of developing a look that adds a little bit more variation in there, and I think that could work out really well. So I would start with those two things, and then we will go from there, because I think this is a really good structure and a really nice start. All right, Hisham. So very cool stuff. I think your characters are looking great. I think they're pretty on point. The one thing about the background, and it's a little bit true in the reference, and it gets amplified a little bit in this image, is I just want you to look back here in the distant, in these trees. Like, it is very, very dark in here. I would love to see a little bit more bounce and a little more play in light in these shadows to get a little bit more feeling in here. Because it feels contrasty and crunchy back there. And on a day like this, with like this much haze, there would actually, and like this much light coming down, there actually would be some light bouncing up in there. And I'm not quite feeling that there. And then additionally, this is a real dumb one, but I feel like these guys are being lit from this side, right? And they're being lit from this side? Or am I crazy? I don't know. Just look into that and make sure that if just make sure that's not causing any key position confusion back there. And then, yeah, I mean, like, this is looking really great. I would be really proud of this one. I think it's coming along really nicely. And then the other thing I was going to have you do was give a try with adding in some God rays back here. A little bit of like volumetric light kind of starting to shine through a little bit behind the definitely behind these main characters, but just kind of because like you want to make this pretty glowy happy the way that there's like some floating particulates. And you kind of have those here. You want to create the fog for those to live in. And I think it could really make some really beautiful stuff. All right, Diana, great test with this depth of field. I actually like the most, like the largest amount of depth of field. And I think that looks great. I think the characters look really good. The only thing that I would do is take a pass at plussing the wood texture right here, like in this area. Again, because it's so close to the camera, and this is kind of a hard edge here and here. I would soften that edge a touch, and then see if you can't either like hand paint a wood texture that's a little bit higher res at this scale and at that angle. But this is really, really great. Same deal with this one. I think you can even go a little bit more out of focus here, because I'm actually, I didn't think we'd be able to read the reactions as well as we are. And I think you can push that a little stronger. And then you got some more light in here, which looks good. Try and put some specularity on the plants there. But I think that, like, yeah, I think this all looks good, and maybe take this down 15%. I really like it on this character, though, because it kind of reads into the rage face. So that works out really well. But yeah, great stuff overall. And then, I wonder if... No, that's okay. I'm wondering if we shouldn't put... Maybe try it. A piece of geometry underneath the ground so we're not seeing light through this. So it's actually dark underneath there. It might just help ground the image a little bit more. All right, Adrian. So we've got your bounce versus no bounce. I like the bounce. It just feels a little bit too cool for this scene. I would have that be a little bit warmer, and that would be it. So I think this was a good test that you did. I don't feel the need to resubmit it, because, like I said, it's just a minor little tweak there. But this is a really nice test, a really good example. I would encourage you to slap those shaders on them and see if you can line them up for reals. But yeah, okay, that is all for today. I hope you guys are, like I said at the top, I hope you all are doing well. I hope that everyone's able to have a relaxing weekend and enjoy themselves a little bit. And I will look forward to seeing you all again here on Monday. All right, happy lighting, everybody.